Detective James Carter sat in his dimly lit office, sipping cold coffee when an envelope slid under his door. He frowned, setting his cup down as he picked it up. The paper was old, the ink slightly smudged, but the message was clear: the truth about the Bishop Street murders lies beneath the old clock tower. Midnight. James had spent months chasing the elusive serial killer known as the Bishop Butcher. The case had gone cold, leaving the city in fear. He grabbed his coat, checking his revolver before heading out into the rainy night. The ancient clock tower stood tall, its broken hands frozen at midnight. James stepped through the iron gates, the ground damp beneath his boots. A hooded figure stood near the tower's base. Barely visible under the flickering streetlight, before James could speak, the figure whispered, "You're closer than you think." Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. James dove for cover as the stranger collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. From the shadows, a silhouette vanished into the night. James sprinted after the fleeing figure, his heart pounding. The wet streets made the chase treacherous, but he gained ground. Turning a corner, he barely dodged a knife that swiped past his ribs. His attacker, clad in black, lunged again, but James countered, slamming the person against a brick wall. Pulling back the hood, he was stunned to see Olivia Hart, a crime journalist who had been covering the case. "You're making a mistake," she gasped. "I was trying to warn you." James hesitated, his instincts clashing. Just then, footsteps echoed. He turned to see Chief Inspector Reynolds approaching, his gun drawn. "Well done, Carter," Reynolds said, smirking. "You found the last loose end." James narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Olivia coughed, struggling to stand. "Reynolds is the killer," she whispered. "He framed others to cover his tracks." Reynolds sighed, aiming his gun at James. "You should have stayed out of this, Detective." A single gunshot cracked the silence. Reynolds fell, clutching his shoulder. Behind him, Sergeant Daniels lowered his gun. "Sorry, Chief," he said. "You're under arrest." James helped Olivia up, breathing heavily. "You knew all along, didn't you?" he asked her. She smiled faintly. "I had my suspicions. Just needed the right bait." As sirens filled the air, James finally felt the weight of the case lift. The Bishop Butcher was unmasked, and justice had been served. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and press the bell icon.